Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into this video. Devtron has some robust RBAC capabilities, and in this video, we're going to explore all of them. So right out of the bat, on the logins page, you can see that Devtron supports SSO login. So you can very easily integrate SSO with GitHub, Google, Microsoft, OIDC, and a number of other providers, which will very easily let you onboard members of your organization. So right now I'm going to go ahead and log in with GitHub. The first screen that you will see when you log into Devtron is the Helm applications page. Let's take a look at all the different RBAC mechanisms that Devtron provides, starting with SSOs. I can head over to the global configurations and under the authorization page, let's look at the SSO service. You can see that I can set up an SSO service with all of these different providers. Right now, I have set it up with GitHub. And if you want to learn more about how to set up the SSO, you can always refer to the documentation, which is linked right here. Once you have set up an SSO and your users have logged into the Once you have set up your SSO and the users have started logging into the Devtron dashboard, it's time to fine-grain the level of access which they have for the cluster. So I can create a couple of permission groups. A permission group is just a reusable set of permissions which I can assign to different users. For example, I have multiple developer users who are a part of my organization. I want to give all of them the same set of permissions. It would be very time consuming to select the same set of permissions for each individual users and assign it to them. So I can simply create a developers permission groups and set up the permissions which I want to assign my developer users. Next, I can head over to the user permissions and I can select my developer user. For example, Bhushan is my developer and I can give him all the permissions associated with the developer permission group. Apart from the permission groups, I can also assign individual permissions for both Helm applications and the Kubernetes resources. You can see that Bhushan has access to the Devtron demo project. He has view and edit access for one environment. And right now I am allowing his access, so I can set it as active. If I wanted to revoke his access, I could set his access permissions as inactive as well. And I can save this. Next, let's take a look at Abhi. Abhi has access to all of the different resources in the default cluster. One of the key differences that you will notice in this permission is that the permission assigned to Abhi is limited to a certain time frame. Once this time is over, his access will be revoked. I can of course update the time till when I want the access to remain. Providing this kind of time-based access to different users is particularly useful if you have third-party vendors who are managing some particular Kubernetes resources, or if you wanted to provide developers with elevated access to the cluster. You could provide them the elevated access just for a limited amount of time, after which their permissions would automatically be revoked. You may have certain situations where you want to access and interact with the cluster in a declarative manner. For that, you can create an API token which has certain levels of permission. The app token that you can see has got a super admin permission and it will expire in a month. This token can be used for gaining elevated access to the cluster in a declarative manner. For example, you may have an application which directly interacts with certain resources in the cluster. That application will require to authenticate with the Kubernetes cluster. So for this kind of a use case, you can generate an API token, set its expiration date, and you can use this API token within your application. You can also connect multiple clusters to Devtron and manage the permissions within each cluster with the robust RBAC features that Devtron provides.